Sorry. Thank you for taking your time to attend this webinar. And we are going to talk about some real life problem in supply chain world. The total duration of this webinar is 55 minutes. I am Sudhir Jaiswal and I am going to be your host during this webinar. And with me, we have some exciting speakers. Mr. Ritam Chakravarti, he is head of product and solutions and has more than 2 decades of working experience in tech and domain of supply chain. And he has solved many complex problems. And he's the man anchor behind this 20 High. Also, we have a very exciting guest, a very senior person from supply chain industry, Mr. Kelvin Go, Senior Director APAC region for Global Alliances and Partnership, Project 44. Thank you, Kelvin. Thank you, Ritam. Especially Kelvin, this late night for you. Appreciate your time. 2020 was an eventful year, as we all know, and the world will remember this year for multiple reasons. Of course, COVID-19 is obvious reason to know about it, but in the supply chain industry, there was a complete breakdown, and this was quite incomprehensible, even to the experts. Till now, before this happened, we knew about some kind of VUCA world. We talked about VUCA world, that everyone knows about this acronym: volatility in the industry, uncertainty. It's a complex industry. There is a lot of ambiguity. However, in 2020, the new acronym BANI came out because of the event unfolded this time. Supply chain not complex, it was kind of broken. We felt the industry is brittle. People were anxious. Production was on, kind of, but they're anxious when I get the material. And the situation was non-linear. It's not predictable at all. And more important, even to the experts, it was incomprehensible. What next? And the world realized that going forward, this will be a new normal. And you can see a typical office of supply chain management. Everyone has a question. Everyone is thinking something, trying to figure out something, but looks like there's no solution. This is the kind of chaos existed in the most of the supply chain organization. This is the time 2020. And this was a time when the Project 20 High team also thought about there's some real problem. What are the real issues coming up? We felt that since this is going to be a new normal, possibly, and the supply chain risk emerging out of, let's say, for example, operational issues, complex environment, external factors, and also interdependencies among the various stakeholders. We felt that the supply chain management entire thing needs a fresh relook by everyone, because the risks were unknown and were unfolding in a non-linear manner. And this is the topic of today's webinar today. If we think about it, this is what we're going to talk about. So my question to set the context, what is supply chain risk, supply chain management risk, or logistics risk? My question is to Ritam. Ritam, what do you think, or what do you mean when you say supply chain risk? What exactly it means? And specifically, given the context of this risk, how do you think it is going to impact the businesses? Ritam.
Yes. Hello, and good morning and good afternoon, and probably people who are in this part of the world, good evening. So yeah, so the question that you're raising is very fundamental and is a very relevant one as well. Now, to me, you look at it like a supply chain is a delicate play, a delicate balance between the supply and the demand forces, right? And any factor which disrupts or breaks that balance is a potential risk to the supply chain, right? Now, while I was working, like you have mentioned, I have been working for almost like 23 years. So in the while I was working, I could categorize the risks into majorly 4 different categories, like in the supply chain risk into 4 different categories. The first and the foremost is the category of demand and supply risks, meaning these risks are actually playing at the demand and the supply points. For example, demand uncertainties. You know, people or the consumers are the main ingredients of demands. but they are the most vulnerable segment to information, or to say misinformation, because of all this multitude of channels you have of information sharing, social media, internet, you name it. So the consumer sentiments and the loyalty to a product is now changing at a very fast pace. And that creates a lot of uncertainty in the minds of the demand planners while they're planning the demands. That's the demand uncertainty risk. Similarly, you are seeing the disruptions because of natural disasters or geopolitical situations, terrorism, war, Ukraine war. We are actually seeing how it is panning out and how it is impacting the overall global economy. um, COVID. To me, actually, COVID is like an ice age. The world before COVID and the world after COVID are totally two different worlds, right? So these factors, these risks, which acts at the demand and the supply points and disrupts the supply chain, are categorized as demand and supply risks. Second category is on operational risks, those risks which are acting at the execution level, like theft, cargo theft. Now, interestingly, theft is a very regional risk. We see in the South American region, which is having the highest cargo thefts because of organized crimes there. Near home, India, we have done a study. We have found that almost 4% of the worldwide cargo theft can be attributed to the Indian subcontinent. So the logistics planners in these regions are dealing with these risks on a daily basis. There are other risks like carrier unavailability or transport problems. Now, in the supply chain, transportation, worldwide transportation, 70% of that is attributed to road transportation. And road transportation, funnily, is the most inefficient leg in the entire supply chain because it is most susceptible to local factors. So, so risks can happen because of the road transportation condition, traffic condition, climatic condition, local factors, lockdowns. All of these issues can impact. Port congestion is another risk. For example, because in the port, whatever happens inside a port stays inside a port. It's absolutely very difficult to get information out of the port that where and when my cargo will be available for pickup, or when should I send out the drayage planner to collect the container. It's so very difficult, and that creates a lot of uncertainties and leads to a lot of detention and demurrage penalties because of these uncertainties. Cargo damage, shipment delays are the other kind of operational risks that you deal with. The third category of the risks that you see are the ones which actually pinches you the most, because here you have to spend the money. Detention and demurrage actually constitutes almost 10% of the entire logistic cost that we incur. And the fallacy of the detention and demurrage problem is you cannot validate when those are claimed in the invoices, because there's very little way of tracking why the detention has happened or where the detention has happened. So a lot of pilferage happens in the detention phase because of that. Then you have logistics cost overrun, margin issues. Those are the other risks that you see in the financial segment. And the final bucket is on the statutory risks, like which are where you're violating some norms and conventions, like your carbon emission or driver work time limits. Like in US, you have 11 hours work time for the drivers. So if you're going beyond that, you have to probably pay up more penalties or overtime, likewise. Then you have these personal data privacy rules that are coming up in the European region in the form of GDPR. So these all risks are adding more pressure to your processes and to your infrastructure. So this is what I see is the gameplay of the overall risks that we are seeing. Now, we all have heard about this toilet paper crisis that happened during the COVID period, right? Now, interestingly, that toilet paper crisis was not because of demand or the supply problem. In fact, people were using almost 40% more toilet papers while they were staying indoors, and the suppliers, the manufacturing units, were actually producing double their capacity when they during the COVID periods. But still, these stores were rendered blanked out because there were no toilet paper reaching these stores. The finished products were not able to reach the stores at the right time because of COVID restrictions or the lockdowns that were happening. So what you see is that the supply chain risks can happen at any point. It can either be at the sourcing of raw materials, or it can be at the production of the goods, or during the distribution of the finished goods. Now, this any effect, any risk that happens in this entire chain has a domino effect or in the overall segment, and creates the impacts in the form of rising logistics costs, or your diminishing margins, or customer churn. Now, this logistics industry is working at a very thin margin. Like there's a study been done in 2021. The average logistics profit margin in US was almost only 2.5%, and then it was in Europe, it was just 1.5%. In India, it is between 3 to 7%. So you absolutely have a very little margin of error. If you make a misstep somewhere, you will directly impact your business profitability. And on the other hand, the customer churns are highest now because there's so many competitors. I did a quick Googling, and I found that in US alone, you have almost like 700,000 3PL providers now. In UK, it is 15,000. So, and most of them are almost providing a similar set of services. So there's so much option for the customers to opt for. So one single negative impact, a negative experience, if they have with you, it is damn sure that they will be now switching to the to your competitor who is standing next door. So there's a lot of customer churns as an impact of these risks. So this is what I see as the supply chain risks and how they're impacting the supply chain overall.
Yeah, thanks, Ritam. Yes, when you're in supply chain business, there are risks, and of course, these risks were known to people before COVID, and these risks getting amplified. The challenge is that how to see it in a simple manner to simplify this amplified risk. And here comes the one point, as you mentioned during COVID, giving example of toilet paper and many other things. The real challenge which created a panic in the market was people are not able to see the visibility issue. They're not the movement of goods was not visible to the people, and that visibility created a kind of perception among people in their own way, and created a different kind of challenge in the industry altogether. So here I have a question that, of course, visibility has a very broad meaning, but one important thing is that while good move from one stage to other stage, the in transit thing was totally a black box. All right. So
yeah,
my sense is that I talked about it and in the past with various people, studied it, not very clear. So what do you mean by in transit visibility, and how it can help to mitigate some of the supply chain risk which we are talking about? So you're given a list of possible supply chain risk. So if you look at visibility as one of the parameter in transit visibility, how it can possibly mitigate it? Can you talk about it?
Yeah, Sudhir, I think this is a very interesting question. And there are a lot of misconception moving around in this. So before I explain what is in-transit visibility, as people say, pictures talks about 1,000 words, let me put up a graphics. It might speak about itself very clearly. Of course, we are giving the freedom of expression to the artist, but the reality is this, the visibility is far from reality. And in fact, we have done a detailed study where we talked to the 3PLs, the 4PLs, and then on the consumer side, the manufacturers and the distributors, and everybody was talking about one thing, that the lack of in-transit visibility is the single largest problem in the logistics industry today. Now, that is so very true. There's one person I was talking to, he summed this up very well. He told that, look, if I'm ordering a $5 pizza, I'm getting a minute-by-minute delivery tracking. Whereas when I'm ordering a $500 worth of cargo, I'm hardly getting any proportional visibility. It is so very nicely summed up. It's actually the reality of the matter. And that's one of the single largest problem in the industry. So if I want to define what is in transit visibility in in a defined fashion. So I would say it's the ability to know or predict the timing, location, and condition of a cargo when it is on the move. Now, it is very important to know that's on the move thing. Currently, the systems that we have are able to provide us visibility when the cargo or the shipment is within the systems. But the moment the cargo is coming out of the system and is put onto a vehicle or a truck and is on the move, the visibility drops to almost zero. And that's where the in-transit visibility problem starts coming out. And the other two aspects of this in-transit visibility is it's the knowledge of what is happening now through the technologies like IoTs or your peripheral computations. All these are giving you the information of what is happening now. But it's also very important to know what will happen tomorrow or what will happen in future. It's predicting, like if it is already delayed, I should be able to predict and tell you when I should be expecting that delivery to come in. Where this is a classic play of big data analytics, predictive and machine learning technologies which are coming together along with the latest IoT technologies to create a comprehensive 360-degree in-transit visibility, which is not the explaining what is today or what is the current situation, but also what is likely to be happening where if it is delayed. So that's very important. Now, if the risk that I have talked about in the last question, Sudhir, if the one common thread you will see is the lack of visibility is creating all those risks, whatever we have seen. So if we can somehow solve that in-transit visibility, many of those problems, many of the risks can automatically get resolved by itself. So let me talk about the solution side. Let me talk about how in-transit visibility can address some of those or mitigate some of those risks altogether. So one of the foremost thing that we are seeing today is, I mentioned about that so much of competition. So creating a differentiated experience towards in the eyes of the customer is so very important now. And in-transit visibility is certainly one of the best means because you want to create a perception in the mind of the customer that he is or she is in control of things. He or she is getting whatever visibility he wants or she wants. Because in supply chain, there is no issue till there is an issue. So from a service provider's point of view, we can provide that lever to the customer that they can view, they can see where their cargoes are when it is in transit. That's certainly one of the greatest value they can see. Secondly, we are also seeing that many of the shippers, many of the customers are now demanding that you have to provide ETAs at the container level because they are measuring things at that level because they have to in turn be answering to their internal and external stakeholders. So if we can, as a service provider, if we can provide those ETAs, those predicted ETAs at the container level, it will certainly create a differentiating value for you in the eyes of the customer. And there is also one thing that we call WISMO, like is where is my order? So it's not just about knowing where is the container, it's also important to know what is the thing inside the container, where is my order which is being carried inside a container. So if I can track at the not just at the container level, but at the order level or even below at the SKU levels, there it creates the value that a customer would get from a service provider, right? Now, the interesting thing is that there are companies like Project 44 who are the strongest and have a very large network of in-transit. They have a large network of carriers who are already connected in their network, a huge network. They are the biggest providers of in-transit data. Now, they have almost like 143,000 load providers, carriers integrated into their network. Almost like 4.3 million drivers are connected. From the sea side, they have almost like 75 global shipping liners part of their network. So not just in road, it is there. They have the network in the air as well as the sea. So anytime, anywhere, if you provide a container number, they can tell you where is that container at this point of time. And they have not just this large network of data, but also machine learning and predictive analytics layer, which is working on those data and creating and predicting where is going to be the is going to be the likelihood of delivering that. What is the predicted ETA of those? So platforms and companies like Project 44 are certainly helping companies who are interested to provide this kind of differentiated experience to the customers. Next up, this is very interesting. I would like to talk something about this. It's regarding the safety stock allocation in inventory. You know how the industry works on the inventory level is that they calculate very manually. They take the data of almost like six months of data about their transit time. They create an average using Excel, and then they add an extra buffer of transit time to account for the variability. Certainly, that's not the actual way we should be using, because of the dynamicity in the business and the transport industry, it's totally way off. But what is happening in the result, as a result, is you are adding more buffers to your transit time, which is actually increasing your safety stock allocations, and obviously it is increasing the overall inventory storage and handling cost. We have been working with one of the customers where they were adding almost like 5 to 10 days in addition to their existing transit times. So when we work with reliable data which are integrated with the real-time systems, we could found that we can reduce those extra days by almost 4 days. We can reduce by 4 days of transit time, and that was amounting a saving of around $10 million a year for each day of slashing. That's a huge saving if you look at it. So in-transit visibility is just not about visibility. It's about how reliable the data is and how you are consuming and how easily they can be integrated with your systems using systems like API or the TMSs, which can be integrated with them and provide you the real-time feed of information which can help you take the decisions correctly. Then certainly there is something, the minimizing the pilferage in the detention and the demurrage side. I have talked about the big fallacy. You cannot actually validate the claims because you don't know when this detention has happened. But with systems like Project 44 and TMSs, if they can integrate, they can actually create those trackings possible. They can figure out the detentions where it has happened and also keep track of the GPS locations where they are, so that when a freight invoice is coming, then the invoice managers can actually look at those logs and validate where the detention has really happened, and probably save a good amount of pilferage that is happening in the detention demurrage side. Early detection is another big important factor when it comes to in-transit visibility. Like we can set alerts in the systems for any delivery delays that are happening, or route changes that are happening, or temperature changes that are happening. That can help the logistics planners, the operations teams, to detect those exceptions early in the cycle and take corrective actions. We can provide them the ETA prediction so that they can reroute. We can provide them the port congestion information so that they can decide whether to use this particular port now, or we should reroute it to some other port so that your on-time delivery is unhurt. So early detection is certainly one of the best ways of eradicating most of the risks that we have talked about. Then human collaboration is another important thing in the supply chain, because supply chain is a industry of people, and you cannot eliminate human out of that of this industry. But what is the problem is the customers, if they want to know the shipment status, they have to actually email or call a 3PL. The 3PL has to go and call a carrier dispatcher, and carrier dispatcher probably have to call a driver twice in a day to find out what's the status, and it takes a good amount of time. But technologies like instant messaging platforms, if can be integrated with the TMS, it can create instant access of information and visibility to the customers, and they don't have to wait for that. That's a facilitation. That's a very good facilitation, and that solves a lot of problems. And finally, in procurement decisions, that this is the time of the year where the contracts are renewed. So at this time, if we can get those data of what has been the delivery accuracy, what has been the on-time delivery percentage of the carriers, what has been the invoice accuracies. So then while you're going and renegotiating the terms with the carriers now, the people can have those data ready in their hand to negotiate better. the free time negotiations that people are doing at the port terminals or the carrier liners, they can do it much better if they have the visibility of what amount of lead time we are expecting out of this port at this point of time. So in-transit visibility, if you look at it, if can be integrated with the platforms like Project 44, where they have extensive API integration facilities, we can actually eradicate and mitigate many of the risks that we are talking about today. So this is, I believe, how in-transit visibility acts in the overall scheme of things today.
Yeah, Ritam. So the supply chain industry, is quite evolved, but yes, surprising though, this in-transit visibility somewhere has not caught the attention of many players and has leading to many other things. Now, the in-transit visibility, of course, there are solutions, and there are experts and people like Project 44. They're doing great job on this. So just to get a sense that, of course, there is a real problem in the industry, which is getting an in-transit visibility. So I have a question for Kelvin. So Kelvin, you are doing a lot of work in this space. So can you please share
Yes,
your
sir.
views, your thoughts, the need of in-transit visibility in the current situation of SCM? So can you elaborate on that? Why it is so becoming so critical now, the in-transit visibility?
Absolutely. So I hope you can hear me.
Yes.
Is it loud and clear? Okay,
Yes, loud
great.
and clear.
Yeah, so very honored and my pleasure to be here and to be able to contribute to this discussion, right? Now, in-transit visibility, in fact, just to understand why is it so important and what sort of importance does it take on. In fact, in 2021, Gartner created a new Magic Quadrant report, okay, and this concept is known as real-time transport visibility platform, okay. So you can imagine how important it is to the point whereby actually Gartner create a brand new category to really address the importance of real-time visibility especially when it comes to movements in transit. Okay. So in terms of use cases, in terms of why is it that it is coming across as so important, I think Ritam has covered it excellently. Okay, he has made a lot of very fantastic points. Okay, so I wouldn't want to repeat a lot of things that Ritam has mentioned, but I'll mention one thing. The concept of visibility, a lot of time in-transit visibility, is misunderstood as just visibility in terms of longitude, latitude, in terms of where is it on the map. Real visibility per se, okay, is really embedded in what Ritam was presenting. It is more than really just the long and lats of a position, okay, because sometimes having a position without a context is useless information. Say, for example, you might have an IoT device, it gives you a location of the item, but if the item is late, the IoT device is not smart enough to tell you that it's late or it is not. So position without context is meaningless. So therefore, right, okay, I'll just conclude that visibility actually goes beyond just long and lat. In fact, right, okay, visibility has to be addressed in the area of context, and visibility, right, okay, should also extend all the way down to the more important concept of orders and inventory. Okay, this is where you peel the onion and you are able to address multiple persona in terms of where visibility comes in to be important to them from their point of view. Okay, and current state of technology allows us to do that, especially when you work with the TMS solutions like yours. Okay, on top of that, some of the rest of the logistic technology systems, when you stitch everything together, I think visibility has a lot more to offer, more than just a location on the map. Yeah, I hope that's useful.
Yeah, thanks, Kelvin. This is very important, and I think everyone has noted that visibility standalone does not give much information. The visibility with context is most crucial thing. Now, here comes the discussion that when you say visibility in the context, and Ritam also mentioned that there are many software packages, that the transport management softwares are there, the TMSs of the world. So, Ritam, what is the play of a TMS? And how you see the modern TMS, which is there in the market, and the products offered through them, is rightly placed to address the challenges. Keep in mind the Kelvin, the way he given the importance of in-transit visibility and how it is useful to that, and where this TMS fits in that. Thank you, Kelvin.
Right, Sudhir. Now, TMS is one of the most important but less understood systems in the supply chain, I should say. People always or most often confuse them with fleet tracking, which just what Kelvin mentioned, that it's not about longitude and latitude. It's about the context that it creates, right? So and transport management system helps in the entire life cycle of our order processing. So right from the point when where the orders has come into your systems, then taking and defining what all shipments are required to deliver those orders in the minimum number of shipments, planning how many containers you will require to ship those orders, to the point where you are managing and maintaining the carrier rate cards, the contracted carriers that you have maintained the rate cards and selecting who would be the best for this job, and then dispatching that from the warehouse and monitoring that where the in-transit visibility and all things comes in, exception handling, all things comes in, and track it till it has been delivered. The invoice has come back to you, and you have audited them and forwarded it for settlement. That entire life cycle of an order can be managed efficiently through the systems like TMS, and it can help actually, if properly implemented, it can minimize the associated risks that we have talked about. Right now, since I have been working with the TMSs for a long time, now I set a particular way of evaluating how a TMS is applicable or how much suitable a TMS is for a company. I would like to share that approach here. So one of the parameters that I put across that how a TMS should be evaluated is based on what are the key end objectives a TMS must meet or it should be meeting. So in my opinion, the TMS must meet three major objectives, whatever features it has. Beyond that, it must be meeting these three objectives. First, it should be able to optimize my costs. Obviously, I'm talking about the logistics cost here, logistics and transportation costs. Second, it should be able to improve my visibility. And thirdly, it should be able to facilitate the overall collaboration that is happening between all the different moving parts in this business, right? So my experience with the TMSs of the world suggests that most of the TMS, be it in the tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3, most of them work towards the first objective, like the optimized cost. They have all the set of features. Of course, the tier 1 TMSs are providing advanced cost optimization features, and while the tier 2 and tier 3 are more on the basic side, but most of them tries to optimize the cost. So certainly they are thumbs up for me. And some of the advanced optimization features that the TMS tier 1 TMSs are providing are related to auto consolidations, like how in the minimum number of shipments you can consolidate maximum number of orders in an automated fashion. Then load plan optimization, that how in a minimum number of containers you can ship the maximum number of cargoes, so that you have to book less number of trucks or equipments. Then carrier recommendation, like based on all your data, all your carrier rate cards, the system recommends you who should be the fastest or who should be the cheapest or who is the most reliable carrier for the particular freights that we are talking about. And of course, automating the invoice auditing between the invoice that you have received versus the rate cards that you have agreed with the carriers in the first place. So features and automating those features are certainly some of the helpful cost optimization features that the TMSs are providing. So I see most of the TMSs scores quite well. Tier 1 TMSs provide more advanced feature like this. Now, when I move into the second category, second objective, that is the visibility, I find that most of the TMSs try to address the problem of visibility till the shipment is within the system. But the moment it goes out of the system and is on the road or on the sea or in the air, your visibility drops almost to zero. Only I have found in the tier 1 category TMSs, they do have some amount of in-transit visibility. But as those products comes out, the TMS visibility is always an afterthought. the core design of the TMS were never done looking at the in-transit visibility as a central piece. It was just an afterthought. So as a result, the features are fragmented and incomplete and very difficult to use from a usability point of view. But other than those TMSs, most of the other TMSs doesn't have any feature at all. It's a big blind spot in the modern TMS world as of now, the in-transit visibility. The third factor when I go in, the big fallacy I see is that most of the TMSs tries to remove human out of the processing loop. That's the biggest problem, because supply chain, human or people are the major part of the equation. You cannot take them out. The TMSs should do rather should allow coexistence and should improve the facility and facilitate the collaboration between the people. And that's absolutely missing. We have in fact evaluated almost like 50 TMSs, current prevalent TMSs, both in tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. And we just found only one TMS out of the 50 has some amount of collaboration services. Rest all are drawing a blank. Now, so this is certainly an important thing that we should ponder upon, where TMS is certainly one of the most useful and helpful solution, technology solution that can provide risk mitigation ideas or risk mitigation ways in the supply chain and the transportation business, but it is largely having this problem in the visibility side and the collaboration side. Cost customization, certainly most of them are carrying those and providing those features, but when it comes to in-transit visibility or when it comes to collaboration, they absolutely draw blank, and there is no support as of now. And that, I believe, is certainly one of the key areas that we have to work towards when we are developing the new HTMSs now. So there.
Yeah, so a lot of work has happened in the space to create efficiency in the place of total delivered cost, and a lot of attention has gone to optimize the cost. But I agree that one of the customer key requirement, all the stakeholder requirement, is to have end-to-end visibility and in-transit visibility. And there's a real problem, and also need for collaboration. Possibly it has not caught the attention, or people focused more on the cost reduction. But these two elements are clear a problem which needs a solution for all the stakeholders. So in this context, that to get an end-to-end visibility, in-transit visibility, and also to facilitate collaboration among stakeholders, can you talk about what are the potential strategies, what are the possible solutions, where this TMS, 20 high TMS fits in, and possibly where all TMS can hit the sweet spots and give some solution or mitigate some of the challenges the stakeholders are facing in the supply chain industry. So can you talk about how this 20 high evolved and how 20 high is focused on solving these problems?
Yeah, so I'm really quite excited to talk about the 20 high. This is the TMS that we are currently working on and it is final stages, and we will be releasing it very soon. So one of the major thing that we started the discussion, this entire discussion started with the major plan that we did not want to create just another technology solution. We wanted to create a solution which can own up the customer's problem and solve them. And COVID was certainly one of the biggest eye opener, where we found that how visibility issue was creating a havoc in the entire supply chain, right? So, and what we did a detailed analysis of the market, and we found that TMSs are traditionally linked only with the elites. Only big companies or big enterprises can only afford the TMSs because of their very high annual subscription costs. The companies are paying probably 5 digits of annual subscription fees, but only using around 50% of the features, because the rest of the features are either not usable or very complicated and very complex to actually implement in an organization. So we wanted to create a TMS which is lightweight, which has the most condensed set of value-adding features on the cost optimization side, so that if properly implemented, we think companies can reduce almost 20% of the logistics costs. Now, we have thought of we have incorporated top-end features into this TMS, like rule-based order consolidation. So one can define the different rules within the TMS itself to see how orders can be consolidated automatically into shipments. We have put in 3D load visualization and load optimization algorithms into our product as a feature. Recommendation engines for carrier selection, and most importantly, in-transit visibility. We have the most advanced in-transit visibility dashboard. We have partnered with Project 44. We have our TMS is totally integrated with the APIs that the Project 44 is providing. So we are able to create the entire dashboard right from the point where you can provide the container numbers or even the order of the SKU numbers, and we can track and provide you visibility about where currently the container is lying. We can also provide you the situation of the port congestions around the world so that you can plan which one port to use or which one to avoid. We are providing you predictive information about when this delivery is about to reach you, so that you can plan. If it is already delayed, then how many days it can reach you. We can provide those predicted ETAs and many other features that are part of the visibility. And I'm very certain that this in-transit visibility dashboard is one of the most complete dashboards that you can get in any TMS that you have seen currently. And certainly, we have a built-in collaboration platform. We have a built-in instant messenger in the TMS. So any user can directly talk, communicate with each other instantly. There is no need for emails or phone calls. Likewise, you can always do that, but you have another mode of direct communication with your end users, with your logistics partners directly through the chat messengers. And you can track and you can associate those discussions with individual shipments so that you can track them later, which is totally impossible when you're doing through emails or phone calls. And then you can also set SLAs to your vendors about the response time, which you can evaluate as part of the KPIs. So all these, if you look at it, we are intending to create and fill the gap that we are seeing on the in-transit visibility as well as the collaboration side, but we are also focusing very much on the cost optimization segment as well. But we are taking away all the frills so that you don't have to pay for these features you don't want to use. We are also bringing a very flexible subscription model where if you don't like or you don't want the entire TMS, you don't have to pay for it. You simply select which all core features and add-on features you want, and you pay what you select. So we are kind of addressing the problems that we are seeing in the prevalent TMS segment, and this product will be launched both in the cloud SaaS as well as on-premises in TMS in a box, we are calling, so that if somebody wants to customize it based on their own requirements, you can do it in the on-premise mode, or if they want to directly use it on a fast onboarding fashion, they can directly use the cloud SaaS. So that is what 20 High, and we are calling it the TMS for everyone. Now, I have few slides on the screens, few of the screens that you can see, and to understand how the functionality pans out. Like this is a screen about the comparing rates. So where you can enter all the freight characteristics, the location details, not just single leg, multi-leg information. Whether it is sea or air, it can do multi-mode of transports as well. And the system will automatically mention all the rate cards, historical data, and will provide recommendation on which all carriers are the fastest or the most reliable. We are having a recommendation engine which is evaluating the leg coverage, the freight cost, timeliness, on-time delivery accuracy, and invoice accuracy. All these different parameters it is evaluating and providing a recommendation that which one you should select. Well, of course, finally you have to make the call, but we are providing as much information in advance so that you can find out which one is the best suited for you. So this is an example of the compare rate card screen. This is on the this automated order consolidation rule engine screen, where you can actually define any number of rules you want to define how the orders can be consolidated. Now, you can also notice one thing, that we have given a huge amount of stress on the usability. we want to create the most user-friendly, because we have found that TMSs currently are very, very functional and sometimes very intimidating, and which is leading to the lot of problems in the user adoption. We want to create a solution which is friendly and which helps the user to remain on the screen more often rather than scaling them out of the system. So we have given a lot of inputs on that. This is a screen where we are showing the port congestion around the world in the different ports, so that you can define. So all this data is coming from the project 44s that we have talked about. This is the dashboards where you can see how many shipments are running late, how many on time, where they are currently located. This is showing what is the predicted ETA. If it is already delayed, then what is the predicted ETA? This one is specifically showing on the 3D load visualization. You can actually see how the different items will be loaded into the vehicle or the container, which way they should be rotated. You can also mention which way it should not be rotated, whether there should be a center of mass balance maintained within the load. All these parameters you can define. So we're pretty advanced algorithm, and all these features you see are typically present in only tier 1 applications. But we are trying to bring them on this and make it available for the people at a much simpler and flexible pricing plans, so that we want to make people use it more, because that's where we see the benefit of getting the problem solved. So of course, we would be delighted if you visit the website www.20hi.com, or you can directly write to us at sales@20hi.com. We'll be helping you to set up a quick demo to demonstrate how the system works. So this is, I'm really excited, and we are all gearing up for the launch today. So this is about the 20hi.
Yeah, so basically I understand this TMS, transport management system, this software is basically no-frill TMS, which gives all the functionalities in a user-friendly manner, and we can design in a very modular manner, so that any bells and whistles, if you want to add on, you can build upon this. And also, I guess it is secure enough from a data privacy, GDPR compliant, and very high level of data privacy and security compliance is there. I understand from the design point of view, architecture point of view. And also the project 44, the team has taken the in-transit visibility to different level altogether. So partnering with P44 gives this 20hi TMS a very strong need in the market, which can fulfill the challenges which is nobody servicing it. So this is pretty good thing happening in the space of technology to address the challenges in logistics industry. And very soon we are going to see the rollout. So when you expect the rollout to happen, Ritam?
We are almost in the final stages. In a couple of months' time, we will be releasing it. So the team is working on the final checks and balances. So yeah, we are in a couple of months' time. We are ready to roll it out. We would be launching initially in the India region and UK and US, where the road transportation is the maximum, and then based on the market feedback, we'll decide the other courses of markets.
Yeah, thank you very much. Any questions from which has come up from the guest side or participant side? I know Kelvin is quite late for you. Thank you very much for taking this call and attending this webinar. It's very informative and talking about some innovative, differentiated thing happening in the industry.
My pleasure. No problem at all.
Thank you so much. And for the panelists, thank you so much for taking our time, and for the attendees, the participants, thank you so much to come out and listen to us patiently. We have given your our email address. Do contact us for any query. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.